It all started on New Year's Eve, a night that was supposed to be loud with fireworks and cheers, not gunshots and blood. Los Angeles was buzzing as usual, lights everywhere, people partying in the streets. For most, it was the kind of night where you leave your worries behind, but for me, it was the night everything came crashing down. The crew and I had been running the streets of East LA for years. We weren't angels, far from it, but for a long time it felt like we had control, like we were untouchable, until the night of the deal. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, the phone calls that dropped after one ring, the whispers in the alleys that stopped when I walked by, the way my little brother Jesse started acting distant, but I ignored it. Thought maybe I was just being paranoid. After all, paranoia was part of the game, right? The plan was simple: meet up with the other side at a neutral spot, finalize the deal, and leave with the cash. We were supposed to be selling them enough firepower to last a small war. And in our world, wars happened every day. We picked an old warehouse near the river, a place that was half rotten and stank like mold. I'd been there a dozen times before. It always felt like a safe spot, away from the cops and nosy neighbors. But that night, the air was heavier. I could feel it pressing on my chest as I walked in. Maybe it was just nerves, or maybe I should have trusted my gut. The deal started smooth. Their leader Rico showed up with his crew, all dressed in black with their faces half hidden under hoodies. We did the usual handshake, the counting of the cash, the inspection of the goods. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't. I'll never forget the sound of the first shot. It wasn't loud like in the movies. It was sharp, almost like a pop. I turned and saw one of our guys, Carlos, drop to the ground clutching his chest. And then all hell broke loose. Bullets flew, glass shattered, people screamed. It was chaos. I don't know how I made it out of there alive. I ducked behind a stack of crates and stayed low, firing blindly into the shadows. When the shooting finally stopped, the warehouse was silent except for the sound of dripping water and the groans of the injured. Rico and his crew were gone and half of my guys were dead. We knew it was a setup, but the question was who sold us out? That's when Jesse came into the picture, my little brother. He was 19, barely old enough to buy a beer, but already neck deep in the life. I'd brought him in a year ago thinking I could keep him safe, biggest mistake of my life. Jesse started acting strange after the shootout. He avoided eye contact, mumbled answers to my questions, and kept disappearing for hours at a time. I figured he was just shaken up. I didn't want to believe anything worse, but deep down I knew. I confronted him a week later, just before midnight. We were standing on the rooftop of our building looking out over the city. The fireworks were already starting, lighting up the sky with reds and blues. It should have been a moment of peace. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. "Jesse, we need to talk," I said. He didn't say anything, just kept staring at the horizon. I stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Look at me," I said. "Did you have something to do with the setup?" He froze, his body stiff as a board, and then he turned to face me, his eyes red and glassy. "They say you were gonna turn on us," he whispered. "They say you were planning to leave, to take the money and run." My heart stopped. "Who told you that?" "Rico," he said, his voice breaking. "He said you made a deal with the cops, that you were gonna let us all burn." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Jesse, that's not true. You know me better than that." But he didn't, or maybe he didn't want to. Before I could say another word, he pulled a gun from his waistband and pointed it at me. My own brother. "Jesse, put the gun down," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You don't want to do this." "They're gonna kill me if I don't," he said, tears streaming down his face. "You don't understand. They'll kill all of us." "We can fix this," I said, "but not like this. Put the gun down and we'll figure it out together." For a second I thought he was gonna listen. His hand wavered, the gun dipping slightly, but then, in the distance, a firework exploded, lighting up the sky in a burst of white. The noise startled him and his finger tightened on the trigger. The last thing I saw was his face, twisted with fear and regret, as the world went dark. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. They said I was lucky to be alive, that the bullet missed anything vital, but it didn't feel like luck. Jesse was gone, and so was everything I'd spent years building. I don't know where he is now. Maybe he's dead, or maybe he's out there, still running from the lies they fed him. Either way, it doesn't matter, because that night on that rooftop, I said my last goodbye.